Hi and welcome YouTube. As you can see, the tash is gone, been clean shaven, and just every now and then I've decided to have a change, which is good. Change is always good. Now, the purpose of today's video is to talk about health and safety. Oh, I hear you moan and groan. Believe it or not, health and safety is quite critical to you having a great time in the outdoors, camping, bushcrafting, survival, whatever it is you may do. Health and safety is quite important, not only for your health and your well-being, but also for your physical safety and also the safety of others. Now, over the years, think about what you've done, where you've been, what kind of kit you've carried, be it sharp knives, axes, been in the mountains, been in coastal regions, been off-grid totally, miles away from anywhere else. Whatever the context may be, if you messed up, how close or how quick would help come to rescue you? Really think about that. I've been in a few situations in recent history, some of my own fault, because we all make mistakes, some of others, and I've been very close to help and populations and people, but I've also been very remotely away from them at the same time, if that makes any sense. So close, but yet so far, as they say. Now, it's Storm Dennis at the minute. We had Storm Clara last week, so we've had two big storms in the UK over the past 2 weeks. Hence the video from inside the garage. Now, I feel personally I'd be quite negligent if I decided to go out camping in the woods or whatever during these kind of conditions, because of what I've seen happen before when I've been up in the woods and it's been windy. You know, you've got trees swaying everywhere, you know, all different sizes and shapes of branches falling off trees. Again, even a small branch, a small twig coming down at speed can seriously cause damage, especially if you're sleeping under a tarp in the woods. You know, what's going to stop something coming down and hurting you? Right, that being said, health and safety. What is health and safety? Ask yourself what it really means. You probably hear people say, risk assessments and things like that. Great. But do we really know what risk assessments are? Personally, I do them every day, and I believe most people do them every day, be it driving down the motorway, crossing the road, getting up in the morning. Most people do some form of risk assessment subconsciously in their mind without themselves even knowing they're doing it all the time. So a risk assessment. What really is a risk assessment? You get all sorts of different answers and reasons for, but in a nutshell, a risk assessment is something where you identify what the dangers are, and once you know what the dangers are, you then put a control measure in place to prevent you or others being harmed by that danger. For example, when we teach the kids, again, the knife is the danger because it's sharp and you'll be using the knife. So a control measure is always cut away from you, always make sure you've got the area around you clear, so if you do move your knife off, then you're not going to come into contact with someone. That's a very basic example of it. So, risk assessment. How often do we actually physically go out, actively look for dangers or hazards? Probably subconsciously, again, we do that without even thinking, you know. But unfortunately, there are people out there who do not do adequate risk assessment. Behind me, you'll see it was in the Medway Messenger this morning, so today's the Sunday, from Storm Dennis. There was a bloke caught out on the Medway River in a boat, in a tent, naked, and it took all sorts of services such as RLNI, Coast Guard, police, fire, ambulance, God knows who else involved to rescue one person. Wow. During a storm. Now, it is winter, we do have storms, they're quite a common thing. Winds are quite common, rain's quite common, but when it's actively promoted on TV that actually, you know what, it's better off to stay indoors and stay safe this weekend because of the weather. Yeah, it's a bit of a downer on things, and I do believe in adventure, and I do believe to a degree of taking risks. But when them risks involved other people, then that's negligent. Willingly, knowingly causing harm potentially to other people. You know, if I go out on the Medway River in my canoe in this kind of weather, I know personally I'm going to get into trouble. And if I do get into trouble, I'm going to have to get other people out there to help me. And them other people have got families, friends, daughters, sons, whatever the case may be. There's people that love them. And God forbid, if that was me in that canoe or that boat that was caught out and someone had died trying to rescue me, how would I have felt afterwards, reflecting back? Was it worth it? Nah, not really. You know, I've been quite amazed on YouTube, the amount of videos of people going out, camping in the woods, camping wherever, you know, and you think, is it worth it for a video? No, it's not. It's just stupid. It really is. Even in the best of times at the woods, you know, things fall down, especially after we've had weeks of wind and rain. And looking back at my video footage from all of this year, it's been very windy full stop in the UK and very wet. So the conditions are very favourable for things falling down. I've seen loads of pictures of trees falling down, people's trampolines being caught on railway line, God knows what. I've seen it all, certainly on social media. But this one this morning has kind of spurred me on to make this video. I was umming and ahhing whether or not to do it because there's a lot of people out there that will whinge and moan, but I don't care about that. It's about just making people stop and think for 2 minutes to think about how their actions could have serious consequences on others around them and themselves as well. You know, we all like the outdoors. I'm a big believer in adventure and taking risks. Trust me, I am. I'm not a health and safety warrior or anything like that. But sometimes you've just got to know your limits and know when to stop, when to think, when to evaluate. Is it worth it for, you know, personal reasons, or is it worth it for a YouTube video, or whatever the context may be? When it's like this, just stop and think. Now, I've said about risk assessment, so like, just to remind you, identifying dangers and then putting control measures on them dangers. Now, one thing I've noticed over my time, both in and out of work, is that perception is a big factor in that. What people think is dangerous is different to every individual person, and that's clearly evident from YouTube, from what I've seen and I've already mentioned. So perception has a big part to play in this. What I may think is dangerous, someone else may not. And that's the problem. There's not really a common sense. Common sense doesn't really exist when it comes to thinking about what's dangerous and what's not dangerous. Collectively, yeah, we might have a rough idea. We might be kind of along the same plane, but there's still then fluctuations in what people think is dangerous and not. You know, the other week I was up in the woods before the storms came, and a spot, and it'll be on a video coming up, where John normally camps. There was 3 branches that had fallen down, pretty much covering the area where he normally pitches up. In all honesty, he probably would have been dead if they'd hit him. You know, we were out only back in the summer, me, Des, Catty and John, and it was just a little bit of blustery wind, and a little branch fell down. I think it just clipped Des, and it touched John's head, and he had a little bit of a cut on his head. And it was nothing compared to the weather like we've got now. So we made a call as a team, as a group of people, to go, you know what, it ain't really worth camping in the woods tonight. Let's camp out in the field next to us. So we slept under the stars, which actually was quite a nice change, but it was the right decision to make. Knowing when to stop, when to go, no, actually, is it worth it? Yes or no? Let's make a decision and let's go with it. So we slept in a field that night under the stars, quite cool. We saw some, really romantic really. Saw loads of shooting stars. It was that time, it was August I believe it was, when the meteor showers come in. So yeah, so no, risk as well. People don't really understand what risk means. So risk is the likelihood of coming into contact with the hazard. So for example, we all know, you know, the woods are dangerous, so the risk will always be the chance of falling branches off the trees. All right, that's the hazard, the branch falling off the tree hitting someone. But the risk level in calm weather compared to stormy weather will be less compared to what it would be in stormy weather, which would be quite high. So it's all these little things that we kind of, the common words we use and we band around thinking we know what we're on about, but actually when we actually sit there and think about what they really mean, we don't really know what they mean. I probably sound like I'm ranting. I'm not. I'm just concerned for people, because like I said, I've been involved where I've had to go and help people out, willingly, you know, no problems at all. When people have been silly enough not to listen to advice and get themselves in difficult situations, I too have been that person as well. I've not listened. I've been in a rush. I've made bad choices. I've got myself in the shit. And I've had to rely on other people. That's why I'd always, no matter what or where, I will always go and help people, because I know I've been that person myself who's needed that help. But yeah, just thinking about the storms and the weather, and this article in the Kent Messenger, you might be able to find it on the internet if you want to look. But it just amazed me, thinking, why would you go camping in a boat, but it's a little rowboat, in a tent, in the Medway River, which is an estuary, a tidal river, during a storm? It's just bonkers. You know, I don't know if this bloke's got a YouTube channel, he might have issues, God knows what the case is with this chap. But think about how many people he put at risk, be it the helicopter pilots, from the boat crews, you know, whoever was involved. It's like, wow. Anyway, health and safety out in the woods. It's not only about storms and that kind of stuff, it's also just generally speaking. You know, think about where you're going, what you're doing, what you're carrying, what you want to achieve. What do you want to achieve when you go out? Is it a YouTube video? Great. But, you know, always make sure your main priority is the health and safety of yourself, and also the health and safety of people around you. I'm sorry if that sounds like a rant and I've kind of just gone belt fed on you, but I do feel quite passionate about this, because I don't want anyone getting hurt for the sake of a click or a YouTube video or whatever else. Life's too short. Again, I'm no expert, but I know enough about life that life is very short. And is it worth doing silly things for, you know, that 5 minutes of fame on the internet, or whatever reason you want to do it for? But anyway, thanks for watching. That's just my thoughts on the matter. And yeah, speak to you next time.